Good. I just had a soda water explosion though. I built this like a little stage in my living room, I guess. So
cool. I love it. Oh, there we are, right next to each other. There you are. So I want to welcome Deanna to the Venus Rising Show with your host Venus Vox on KMKR 99.9 FM. And Deanna, welcome. I'm so eager to talk with you. You have so many different things that you're doing. I'm looking at your profile on Facebook. Everybody, you can go to her profile, Deanna Cross, that you are the violist and vocalist at the Unday, fiddle player and vocalist at the Desert Rovers, the lead vocalist at the Old Pueblo Soul Review, the violist at the Hatpin Duo, the vocalist, viola player, guitarist, and dreamer at For Love or Absinthe, and a siren at the Silver Sea Jewelry.
I do play with BTP and friends. Brian Thomas Parker's project. So he has his personal project, and it's sort of a rotating cast of musicians that they play with.
So talk to me a little bit about these bands. I saw the video for the Unday, the Maker's Mark.
Yes, yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, we released that video last year. Of course, you just interviewed Giselle, who was our star in that video. She did such an amazing job of really bringing that vision to life. So yeah, the Unday is sort of my main project, I would say. It's my baby. So I'm the lead, the front woman, and I play viola, and it's all original material. So we don't really do covers or things like that. It's just all of our original stuff, and it's kind of rocking, and so
nice.
I enjoy that.
So how long have you been doing that?
We released our first album in 2012. Between then and now, we've been working on our second album. We had a few setbacks. We had to find a new drummer and get that drummer up to speed, and it's hard when it's all original material. The new instrumentalist has to write their own part and like learn the song and then write their own part. And a lot of our music is kind of prog rock, progressive rock, so it can be a little challenging and just complicated. It's not like a straightforward, okay, here's the 3 chords and just wing it. It's much more complex than that. Really, the project started 10 years ago. So I've been working at the Unday for 10 years.
Wow, that's pretty cool, actually. So speak to me a little bit about your background as a musician. I mean, you're coming into the rock and roll world from, I'm guessing, classical with the viola and the violin. And
right. Yeah, I started out in orchestra, of course, in school, and I briefly studied music at NAU, and I studied music at Pima, and it was all classical world. What really happened, so I started music school at NAU, and it broke me. I was like not prepared emotionally or mentally for that process, and especially in the classical world, it's so strict, and it can be very overwhelming. I'm sure you might have some idea of that.
And I'm just getting goosebumps all over my body about the competition.
Yes, it's so much competition, and I remember leaving my private lessons in tears every week, and it's just, they kind of try to break you, I think. So I quit music I went from playing music every single day as a kid all the way to college, and that was all I wanted to do. That was my dream. And I quit. I completely quit music, and it took me moving to a different instrument. So a couple years after that, I had friends who had a rock band, and they were looking for a bass player. And I hadn't played bass before, but I was like, well, I know how to play a stringed instrument. So if you just show me what to do, I can, at least fill in until you find a real bass player. And I just fell in love with playing rock music and the stage. And so from there, I played bass for a while in a couple bands, and then with the Unday is what got me back into playing viola. It was scary because I hadn't played in so long, you know, but that's what got me back into it. And I think that's maybe part of why the Unday is like, I'm so passionate about it, you know, because I put 10 years of my life into it, but it brought me back to viola. And also, I wasn't formally a vocalist before the Unday either. It got me into that. It's been my life-changing growth project, I guess.
That's beautiful. Actually, that's a beautiful story. I totally relate to that idea of just feeling so shut down. So then you fell in love with rock and roll, and that really got you.
Well, I already loved rock and roll. Like, that's what I listened to. I wasn't sitting around listening to, you know, Brahms. I just hadn't played that music before. And it didn't seem accessible on a viola, you know, which was the only instrument I really knew. It took playing a bass guitar to get me like, oh yeah, this is fun. And then so the Unday, and then I also play with Peter Goretz in For Love or Absinthe, and that's like my dinner music project, I guess, you know, because what happened a few years ago, I just decided to try to do music professionally for it to be my primary income. And in order to do that in a town like Tucson, you have to diversify. So the Unday, we mostly gig, you know, like Friday, Saturday nights, and we can't gig too often. You know, you have to keep the crowd coming. So we kind of limit that. And then my project with Peter was to fill out the rest of the week, you know, those Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night gigs, like weddings and stuff like that too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I play with Mariah McHammond in Hat Pindu. She plays harp and I play viola. And so it's a little bit more mellow, but also unhinged in its own way. It's all Mariah's, it's all her writing. So I would say it's like avant-garde classical kind of with a harp and a viola.
And then you do vocals in that too, right?
A few, very little. Mariah does most of the vocals. I do some backing vocals with her.
Okay.
I think singing is probably my favorite thing to do. I never considered pursuing singing as an instrument, I guess, because I was so in love with the viola. But I did sing in like the church choir and stuff growing up. So and at home, my mother loved to sing too, so we would just sing all the time.
Did you guys do like harmonies and stuff in the car while you're driving along? That was some of the stuff we did.
Yeah, a little bit. And you know, at one point when I was I wonder how old I was when this happened. Anyway, my family was a band. It was my mom desperately wanted us to be like the Partridge Family. So we had our own band and we would perform at our church, you know, like one Sunday a month or something. But we would all sing, and I could play guitar enough to play, like, you know, backing guitar with my dad, do some basic GCD stuff. That's really, you know, I grew up in a musical household, and so that's really where that all started.
Yeah, I know. We had the family orchestra. My mom's a violinist, and so we all had to play. So that's really cool. Where did you grow up?
I'm actually from Tucson.
Oh, wow.
The rest of my extended family is in Tennessee, and so I still feel very family with them, but I didn't really grow up around them. But my whole extended family, many are musicians as well. It's of course all bluegrass out there.
Oh, I love bluegrass. So you've never played bluegrass?
I've fought it. I've really fought playing bluegrass, but I think it's just because I was kind of expected to fall into that because of my family background. But I remember when I first started playing viola, my grandma calling it a fiddle and my family members calling it a fiddle, and it made me so angry. Like, no, I play classical music. This is not bluegrass. So I really fought the bluegrass for a while, but the project I'm playing in right now, the Desert Rovers, which we just released our CD too.
Oh, cool.
It's not specifically bluegrass. It's Celtic folk,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but there's a lot of like overlap there in Celtic folk and bluegrass.
Have you been doing the Desert Rovers for quite a while then, or is that a relatively recent?
We started that project last year. So in 2019, I almost forgot what year it was. 2019, like the beginning of the year, and the plan was we just wanted to do some gigs around St. Patrick's Day, and we did that. And then we were asked to do some other shows, and then we landed the Celtic Festival. It's in October. So it was like, well, clearly there's more of a demand for this music than we thought, you know, because we kind of felt like there would only be a demand around St. Patrick's Day, but that is not the case. There's a demand year round for it. So we've continued, and we just put out, as you know, because you watched our little live stream, we put out our album the weekend of St. Patrick's Day this year.
That is really awesome. What's it called?
Hold My Head.
And where can we find it?
That's streaming on all platforms right now. The Desert Rovers.
Okay.
Yep. You can also find the orange EP that Hat Pin Duo just put out.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And that's streaming everywhere as well.
Oh, the Unday also has.
It's self-titled, so it's called the Unday.
Okay. All right.
And that one will be streaming everywhere soon. It's on Bandcamp right now.
Okay.
We have been putting only our new stuff, like, because we put that album out in 2012. Of course we love it, but it feels old to us, you know. And we also recorded that album ourselves. We turned this house into a recording studio for a month. So we did it all on our own, which I guess I recommend having the experience, because then you understand why it costs so much to hire someone to do it for you.
I hear you.
It's worth the money, let me tell you, after having to do it ourselves. So we weren't sure we wanted to release that. I mean, we released it and it's on Bandcamp and we have physical copies, but we weren't sure we wanted to put it everywhere, because we mixed and mastered it ourselves, and we were like, I don't know if it's the right quality, but I think we're going to go ahead and release it. We do have some of our newer stuff on Spotify and elsewhere.
So for the singles, are you recording those in a studio then and paying?
Yes. And that's why we don't have the whole album yet either, because it is costly, and it takes time, you know, because you want to get your money's worth when you're in the studio. So it's like, you got to have that song perfect before you go in. You
make sure that you really have it as rehearsed as best you can.
Right.
Are you doing any classical music then, or?
No, the only classical is really like when sometimes I'll practice, you know, I'll get my Bach books out, or because it's those things are good for technique, and I do like playing a lot of those songs, but I've really never performed them. It's more just for rehearsal, and I honestly don't know that I could perform a classical piece. I feel like I might have some PTSD from like playing classical and in like my recitals and stuff.
Oh yes, those recitals can be so stressful. Oh, I think that's one of the most difficult performance situation to be in, is doing those recitals.
Yeah.
Not only do you have all your peers sitting there judging you, because you know there's all that competition in the school, but then you have your teachers grading you on it. Are you gonna pass or fail? It's like, and they know if you've been practicing enough.
Oh yeah. And then your private teacher's probably going to be there too and tell you like, I thought that you had fixed that thing, or I thought you know, it's nerve-wracking, but it does help you have a thicker skin, you know. I think I still don't think I have a very thick skin. I'm quite a sensitive, empathetic person, but I try. And you know, if some random person at a bar like tells me that my performance wasn't good, I can just brush that off. You're not my teacher, you know. It doesn't
Well, that's actually really good, because it is hard when you're singing or when you're playing an instrument, and you're so vulnerable. And
That's very vulnerable. Yeah.
back to performance, or you do classical music still, and but you've not really performed it much. The
No,
classical.
I feel like, I do kind of miss playing in an orchestra,
Mm.
but I don't have time for another project right now. But I know we have an amazing community orchestra that's a volunteer based. I have wanted to play in that, but it's, as it is right now with all the projects I have, I average about 10 hours a week just rehearsals with other people. And that's not like my personal practice or my songwriting time or gigs, so I need some nights off a week. It's mostly like rehearsals every night if I'm not gigging. But I would like to play classical at some point again, and I'm sure I will. That'll maybe be my retirement hobby. I don't think there's really retirement
Retirement for musicians.
for a musician. But
so how is it for you doing the music full time as a profession? Is that working out for you, or
I mean, yes, it is. It's not easy. So some days are harder than others. It's like a constant hustle. But I'm trying to get better at balancing that. And I am still working part-time at Silver Sea Jewelry on 4th Avenue. I love working there. It's nice to have stable income, It's not a lot. I don't not there too many days out of the week, but it's something to fill in the gaps between gigs. And it's also a really fun job. I just love working there. So
that's a jewelry shop primarily, right?
yes. Mm-hmm.
You make jewelry too?
I make some. Yep.
What's your medium?
I'm still learning a lot. So I haven't really found the thing that I love making so much, but I do a lot of beading for the store. I like making stuff out of like more found pieces or stuff like that. But I think the beading is kind of good for me because it's very monotonous and it's like, just put the bead on the string. It's like a zen, like a, kind of a zen thing.
Mm-hmm. And then tell me a little bit about your writing process, about writing music, and how did you start
Sure.
writing your own music?
I really started with the Unday. Honestly, I had written some stuff before. I've only done collaborative stuff primarily until very recently, but it's with the Unday, it's been a collaborative team effort, which I really enjoy writing in that way. So I'm working on writing more just for myself, and my big goal is to have my own solo project, which has been terrifying thing for me because I like group work and I like bands, but because it scares me is a big reason why I want to do it. And just to have that security that I can gig even if it's by myself, I don't have to rely on the whole group. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. And does that mean like doing more guitar work, or would you do looping with the viola?
I think it's maybe going to be I don't really fully know what it's going to look like yet. I've been writing just with the guitar right now. I would like to incorporate more violin and viola. But as far as the writing process, I usually write with guitar. It's just like a good medium to get your chord structure out, find interesting chords. I also have been experimenting writing on piano a little bit too, or keyboard. But I always come to writing with the music first. The music is always, that's the most important thing to me, is the music. And so come up with the chord progression and the melody. And often I'll even write the vocal melody over it before it has words. So then it's like fitting my lyrics to my vocal melody.
How do you find your lyrics then? How do they come to you?
Sometimes it just like happens.
Mm-hmm.
I'll often sing the song that I'm playing, like a line, a really good line will like spark in my head, and it's just like, go, go, go. You try to write it down as fast as possible or record it in the moment. Sometimes it's an agonizing process, like trying to extract, like, what is the song about, but I usually will find I start with like an emotion or a feeling, like what does this music make me feel, or what do I want it to make other people feel. So I'll start with the emotional element first and then try to build the words over it. And often I'll sing it without the words, just vocally the melody. And sometimes I'll just really need like a big O sound or an ah or a hard D on the end of the sentence or something. So sometimes the words are just a part of the soundscape.
Wow, I love that. Actually, I really like that concept. That's really different. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say anything quite like that before, but I love it because coming as an instrumentalist is where I feel you coming from.
Yes, the vocals are the instrument, and then I feel like what they say is important, but it's always like the last touch I put on a song.
Wow, that's really interesting. I love it.
Thanks.
I can totally see that working as an instrumentalist. Have you ever played with a loop?
I have practiced that a little bit. It's really difficult. It's almost like learning another instrument in its technicalities.
I was thinking about that because of the solo project and trying to think of what that would look like for you. I'm just curious where you would go.
Well, I mean, right now I've just been working on songs on the guitar. I've written a couple songs and adapted some songs for like some covers, solo covers. But yeah, it'll be an adventure. We'll see.
Yeah. So speaking about adventures and what we're doing, how has this been being in quarantine? Have you been able to collaborate at all?
A little bit. I mean, when, we did a couple of the live streams at the very beginning of this whole quarantine. And then by the end of that week, it was like, okay, we can't meet in person. Peter Goretz and I have been trying to figure out ways to play music together this whole time. We've tried, it doesn't work through Zoom or something like this because the video lag is too much. And then we were trying like over the phone, and now which doesn't work also, in case you were wondering.
I was wondering.
So actually we had intended this month to make another YouTube video. And so I think we're still going to try to make it, but separately. So he's going to record himself playing his part, and I will record myself playing my part with him. And then hopefully that'll work. It's not in person, but we can still make a music video, I guess.
Because I am just like searching high and low. How can you play together
Right.
online?
And I think this week I'm trying, Brian Thomas Parker has been doing live streaming every week. He's doing like on Tuesday nights, a songwriting session. So on Facebook Live, so anyone watching, everyone's kind of helping to write the song. And then on Thursdays, he's been doing like a Thirsty Thursday afternoon happy hour gig, playing his originals and covers. And I've been watching him and actually jamming along with him as I'm watching. So it's almost like band practice, but he can't hear me. But we're gonna actually try to do a joint live stream Thursday. So I don't know what that'll look like. It'll probably be us taking turns playing songs. It'll be like we're almost, at band practice and getting our music collaborations in. And
yeah, well, I'll have to definitely check it out. I mean, I think that's the thing that's so hard for all of us during this time right now, where we're not able to get together with people and not able to rehearse.
Right.
I don't know about you, but for me, not being able to rehearse or play, it's hard for me to practice.
Same. And I think just having the schedule of rehearsals, because like I said, I was doing like 10 hours of rehearsals a week and then maybe a gig or two every week. So I had things on my calendar, okay, I need to work on this particular thing for this rehearsal. And so then I had a practice plan. Now without an upcoming gig, or I don't want to let my bandmates down at practice, I have like, well, what am I going to play? What am I going to work on? What am I going to rehearse? So I've been working more on technique and learning new chords on the guitar and practicing my keyboard more, but it has been monumentally difficult to get motivated. That's why I built this stage in my living room.
So we're in your living room right now?
Yeah, it's partly for live streaming purposes and making videos and stuff, but I put it in the living room because it's also my motivator.
Nice. Yeah. No, that is really cool. It reminds me of the time I got to hear you play at Royal Sun.
Mm-hmm.
I was really impressed with your whole stage setup. 'Cause you had,
Yeah.
I don't remember what all you had, but it was just like, wow, that's pretty. And then, the way you were dressed and everything, it was really nice how you made that a whole presentation. And I see that in your background there with your guitars,
Yes.
the lights, and the shower curtain. No, I don't know what that is.
It's actually, you can't really tell during the day because the sunlight is so bright. It's like sequin fabric.
Oh, wow.
It looks like water with the sunlight hitting it. But I do have like some stage lights down here too that you
Oh.
can't really see when during the day, but at night it's like lit up and it looks like, makes me feel like I'm playing in a little club or something.
So talk to me a little bit about that sensibility, think of the whole presentation.
Yeah, I think presentation is extremely important because it's a whole aesthetic, for me anyway, when playing music for somebody, yes, I want the music to speak for itself and I want my art to speak for itself, but we're also visual people. And so I think that visual presentation can really like push it over the edge a little bit more. You think about like bands like Pink Floyd or something, they're like over the top with the visuals. And would they have been as big and recognized as a band without all of that pageantry and the...
That's a really good point. But so speaking of style of music, I wanted to talk about the Unday, what the style of music is as you see it. And you're mentioning it's a little darker than like the pop song is the Maker's March
Sure.
song.
Yeah.
And then you also, with the other two groups, the Hat Pin Duo, not other two, but two of the other groups, the Hat Pin Duo and the Absinthe, for Lover Absinthe. Well, how did you describe the Hat Pin Duo?
I would say it's avant-garde, classical folk.
Okay. But that's a little lighter. That's not heavy rock. That's not metal.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then for Lover Absinthe is also a little lighter.
Yeah, we can get a little heavy, but it's just like two people with two instruments. So it's like, unless we throw a drummer in there, it's not.
That's actually a really good point, having a drummer.
Yeah, that quiets things down a lot.
So if you had your dream of being able to do whatever you wanted to do musically, what would that look like?
That's a hard question to answer. I've always wanted to take the Unday on like a pretty big tour. I would love to open for national acts, get on a tour with like a big act and eventually become that big act. But I don't know, we're a little bit eclectic. So I don't have like the naivety that we would be, like Led Zeppelin or something, but I can see our potential to be like moderately big, and I would love to play those bigger shows. I really like the big shows a lot. Big stage, big lights, as you can imagine. I love all of the
I love it. Yeah. Right. So like getting into South by Southwest, have you gotten in there yet?
We did a South by Southwest show. It wasn't an official showcase the year that we released our CD, and that was pretty cool, and it was pretty awesome to see like the mayhem that was South by Southwest. But I don't know if that's really kind of my scene. Like I would like to do big festival shows and stuff like that, but so at some point it's like too much. Like South by Southwest is like too much. There's too many things happening.
Well, actually, I've never been, so I only know stories of it. It's just that I know people go there because they're wanting to be found, or going to LA.
See, and that's some of my goals and aspirations, like might actually require me to leave Tucson, and I don't know that that's something I want to do. I don't know, I'm figuring it out like every other Tucson musician.
It kind of makes me think about the fact that we're all in quarantine, we're all in lockdown, we can't go anywhere. We're exploring all these other ways of doing music and other ways of making money as musicians.
Right.
Granted, there's art and we love the art aspect of it, but we still have to pay bills like everybody else. I am wondering how much the internet, Justin Bieber started out as a YouTube guy.
Sure. I think the biggest thing is putting yourself out there to be discovered, and that's an option. I wanted to mention too, you were asking, I guess, like what my dream music would be. So yeah, to play bigger stages, I think, and I would love to collaborate with like more artists, and eventually it would be amazing to collaborate with some artists that I really admire that are like out of my circle right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I also love teaching, and I do teach private lessons, and I think I want to include that in my life, you know, because just helping somebody else learn an instrument or encouraging them musically. Like, I don't want to be the music teacher I had who like had me crying after every lesson. I want to do the opposite for my students.
Yes, to have that positive musical experience.
So yeah, I've been trying to teach over Zoom, and it's tricky with music, as we talked about, because of the timing delay and such, but it's still kind of working. It's just like learning a new skill, which is where we're at. So that's one positive of all the quarantine. I'm learning a lot of new skills.
What is the future of music? What is the future of what we're doing as human beings now that this lockdown is really showing us a whole different way of being?
Right. And it's possible that there won't be as many big shows, like just in general, you know, big concerts and things like that. So even the top tier musicians are going to have to change kind of their strategy, and what the whole music industry is going to change in some way, for sure.
Anyway, well, Deanna, it's been awesome talking with you.
Yeah, you too.
You know, we should go more into next time more about even more about the different bands and stuff, but even more in depth. But I think this was a really good overview. But I hope I see you soon in real life.
Yeah, me too. I'm
Yeah.
sure as soon as we're out seeing live music, we'll run into each other.
I know, and then we could like give each other a hug or something.
Oh, yes.
Alrighty, well, I'll see you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.